Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the County Council meeting of Monday, April 22nd, 2024. A very interesting day, which we will talk about in a moment. Would you all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's invocation, me.
Oh, I thought it was me. Good.
No, it's by me.
Well, you were looking
And I've
at me.
tailored mine to today because 54 years ago today, on this date, was the very first Earth Day.
Oh.
So my invocation is called The Beauty of Nature. Oh God, we thank you for this earth, our home, for the wide sky and the blessed sun, for the salt sea and the running water, for the everlasting hills and never resting winds, for the trees and the common grass underfoot. We thank you for our senses by which we hear the songs of birds and see the splendor of summer fields, the taste of autumn fruits, and rejoice the feel of cold in the winter, and the smell of the breath of spring. Grant us a heart wide open to all this beauty, and save our souls from being so blind that we pass unseeing whenever the common thorn bush is aflame with your glory. O God, our Creator, we are the stewards of this precious land we call home. Guide us to ensure the quality of life we wish for all who live, work, and play in this beautiful place. And we ask this in your name, who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen.
Amen.
Public notification of this meeting has been published, posted, and distributed in compliance with the South Carolina Freedom of Information Act. As you can see, the dais has 10 of the 11 members. The 11th member, Mr. Mark Lawson, is in attendance, but Mr. Lawson is online. So we do have a full contingent to conduct the business of County Council. I would ask a member of council to amend tonight's agenda as follows. I would like to have us add an item for a presentation and public hearing of the 2024 Community Development Block Grant called CBDG, which will be done by Michelle Knight of the Low Country Council of Governments. She is on her way. She should be. Oh, you are here. Wonderful. So I don't have to have you wait until the bitter end. When we get to our action items, I will call you up then. Okay, so may I have a member of council make that motion and second, and we'll take a vote to add this item.
So moved.
Mr. McKellen made the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Glover made the second, duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the agenda will be amended to add this, and we will put this as item number 11A after the consent agenda.
Want me to move the motion again?
Yes. Now, I would like a motion to approve tonight's amended agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Tabernick made the motion, Mr. Bartholomew made the second, duly motioned and seconded for the amended agenda. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to have add a motion to amend it further. I'll wait until you take the vote on this.
Okay. Well, no, that
No,
would
no,
be,
no, yeah.
no, you'd have to amend it now.
Okay, well, I'm not going to try and cancel that one, I just want to add another one. I'd like to amend the agenda so that we can have an agenda item to allow Senator Tom Davis, who will be coming here a bit later, I don't think he's here yet, to talk about the money that has been appropriated in the Senate for our use here in Beaufort County. The Senate version has been finalized. It will then go to the House for their consideration and perhaps to committee but he was anxious to file a report with us this evening to let us know what action the Senate had taken. So my motion is to amend the agenda to allow Senator Davis some time on the agenda to discuss the Senate budget for this coming year.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second that.
Please.
Okay, duly motioned and seconded. The motion by Mr. McKellen, the second by Mr. Reitz, to allow Senator Davis to make a presentation about the Senate version of the budget that contains funding for Beaufort County.
Right.
Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, this will be approved without any objection. And I see no objections. Now we're back to the main motion, which is to approve tonight's agenda. Ms. Tabernick made the motion. Mr. Bartholomew made the second. You're okay with both amendments now. So it's duly motioned and seconded for the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the agenda for tonight is approved as amended. Next is the approval of the minutes of the March 25th, 2024 meeting. May I have a motion? Please.
So moved, sir.
Mr. McKellen, was it Mike, please, that did it?
Yes.
Oh, okay, then please for a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Dawson made the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, the minutes will be approved. We are now, without objection, by the way, and now we are at the administrator's report. Mr. Robinson, you have the floor.
Good evening, sir. I have a little announcement and a few employees to recognize. First, I'd like to talk about our pending transportation sales tax referendum. Just for a moment, after our second reading, County Council Chairman, Mr. Passman, recognized the need to engage in the community. He asked staff to get together and organize some community meetings. 3 such of those meetings have taken place already. The intent of those meetings was for the infrastructure team, who are here tonight, Mr. Jared Fralix and his crew, put together presentations to discuss with the public our 2018 transportation referendum, along with the pending proposed transportation referendum, to hear from the public, listen to ideas, and then and review those ideas later. So 3 such of those events have happened already between council members, municipal members in each of those jurisdictions represented, as well as our infrastructure team showed up. So I'd like to congratulate them for the work they've done so far in engaging the public as we move forward with that process. The announcement, all that is to say, the next meeting is to be held on April 29th, which is Monday at 6 p.m. at the St. Helena Library. So anyone who would like to hear about that, we encourage you to attend. All right. So now I have a few employees to recognize. First is from our finance department, Rosia Bennett. Come on up. So, Rosia, how are you?
I'm fine.
Rosia is our accounts payable specialist. She is responsible for processing invoices, communicating with department heads and employees, calculating and paying sales tax and use tax each month, also verifying account information for its accuracy. Before coming to Beaufort County, so she's, you've been with Beaufort County about 3 years, is that right? Before coming to Beaufort County, she worked in the banking industry for more than 20 years. She was responsible for educating customers about their finances, how to use banking products to help them with their financial futures. She's always had a positive attitude and uses her knowledge to educate and encourage others to work hard to succeed. She's inspired daily by her husband, her 2 daughters and son, and grandchildren. In her free time, she enjoys singing in church, shopping, and spending time with her family. Would you like to address council?
Well, good evening. I want to thank each and every one of you for having me here today. And I also want to thank Mr. Robinson and Ms. Christmas thank each and everyone. Thank you.
All right, the next employee I want to talk about or introduce you to is Thomas Howard. Thomas is unable to attend unless he's here. Thomas works for traffic operations. He's worked for Beaufort County for 9 years, but has nearly 25 years of service working on our traffic signals. I'll tell you a little about how complicated these things are. He makes sure that he manages a team that takes care of our traffic control signals in Beaufort County. Traffic control signals of the past were analog, switches and timers and relays and that type of thing. Today's modern signals are computer controlled. They can use adaptive signal technology, so these things know the number of cars that pass through and adapt to the traffic and change as needed, which is really cool. These types of signals, they learn from traffic patterns and adapt to provide that most efficient flow of traffic. Many intersections that Howard and his team manage include pedestrian safety devices, emergency vehicle communication technology, and much more. The team manages not only routine maintenance, but preventive maintenance and repair of 46 state-owned intersections and 12 county-owned signalized intersections. So that is a lot of traffic lights, including all of the other proliferary items as far as like the handicap, the accessible buttons and the pedestrian buttons and all those kinds of things. It's all included in there. Some of those cabinets are very complex. Along with all the work that they do, the traffic signal team has some MOUs with our municipalities and the state so that they can work on each other's equipment. Sometimes they work together. Sometimes they share equipment between organizations. So all of that really aids the county in improving our resiliency and sustainability as we manage all of those traffic signal intersections. So although Mr. Howard could not be here tonight, let's thank him for the work he and his team do to protect our intersections in Beaufort County. Lastly, I'd like to recognize Wendell Robinson. Wendell is the Deputy Director of our Board of Voter Registration and Elections for Beaufort County. He's been with the county for just over 10 years. Wendell assists the Director in operations of Voter Board of Registration Elections Office, ensuring every eligible citizen has the opportunity to register to vote and participate in fair and impartial elections, with the assurance that every vote will count. He supervises the IT specialist within the offices, as well as poll workers and clerks used during elections. In addition, he personally interacts with vendors and develops and implements policies that are used in their office every day to carry out their mission. Wendell is currently one of 12 individuals in the state of South Carolina recognized nationally as a certified election and registration administrator. At the time of his certification, he was only one of 5 in the state. All right, well, let's thank Wendell for his service to Beaufort County and our voters. Thank you so much, sir. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I might comment, the administrator gave his update on the sales tax meetings that is being held geographically, south of Broad, north of Broad, St. Helena. However, we're missing out on scheduling a meeting north of the air station for the folks on the northern end of the county. I've made a request. I sent you an email and asked you that we schedule a meeting for those citizens on that end as well. So if you would.
And we'll take that under consideration after we've had the fourth one. We may or may not need another one to make the decision of some of the changes we have to make in the referendum, but I will let you know after the fourth one has taken place.
Well, I would beg to differ with you, Mr. Chairman. If we're going to garner county-wide support for this referendum, then we need to advise all the people in the county, not just segments.
And I hear you loud and clear, and we may have to go back out to everyone again based upon what we've heard from them. So we'll let you know.
Keep that in
Well
mind
taken.
if you want.
Okay. Item number 7 is a presentation of a proclamation recognizing Penn Center 1862 Circle Week. And that presentation will be done by Councilmember York Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Adams is here. Oh, okay. Come on up, sir. Yeah. I didn't realize you were here. You must have stopped in
I
a few
did.
minutes ago. Okay, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, this is a proclamation here presented to the Penn Center for their 1862 Circle Gala event. It reads, whereas the historic Penn Center established the 1862 Circle in 2003 to recognize national leaders who embody the spirit of Penn Center and who will serve as advocates on its behalf. And whereas the Penn Center 1862 Circle was convened in the Beaufort community at an annual spring event around a theme and a guest speaker. And whereas the members of the 1862 Circle serve as ambassadors to spread the word about the enduring history and culture of the Sea Islands. And whereas inductees into the 1862 Circle this year are Dr. Eric Foner, Reconstruction historian, Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson, civil rights advocates, the Honorable Raphael Warnock, U.S. Senator of Georgia, Mr. Jim Fender, civil rights activist, Mr. Bernie L. Washington? Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Right, yes. Former Penn Center Executive Director, Mr. Cecil Williams, civil rights photographer, in memory of Ms. Mitchell, Frida Mitchell, child care advocate, Mildred Ladson Jeanette, nurse and community leader of St. Helena, Septon Clark, civil rights and citizens trainer, and Haston Grant. Gant. Right, okay. That's what I thought too, but a South Carolina Reconstruction era legislator and land grantor for the Penn Center site. Now therefore be it resolved by the Beaufort County Council hereby proclaims April 21st through April 27th, 2004 as Penn Center 1862 Circle Week. We encourage everyone to recognize the significance of Penn Center, Inc. mission to preserve and protect the history and culture of the Sea Islands. Dated this 22nd day of April 2024 and signed by our chairman, Joseph F. Passaman, Jr. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
This is yours.
Okay.
We have to make changes.
Okay, we'll make the changes. No, thank you so much. Yeah, oh, that's, okay. Thank you so much because Penn Center history is Beaufort County history, and us working together to illuminate this so that the rest of the world understands the importance and significance of this county going forward. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, sir. You want to get a picture of this?
Yes.
Can someone else get in the picture? Can someone else get in the
Oh,
picture?
yeah.
Sure. Oh, this is yours, man. You want to hold that?
I'll let Dr. Gibbs do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Next is a presentation of a proclamation recognizing Dr. John L. Coaxum. Coaxum?
Yes, sir. Before I even start, I want to just add, Doc, Mr. Chairman, two significant things that Dr. Coxon did in addition to what's already here. He was also spent 4 years in the Navy. I think it went in 1953, and then he was also on the Alcohol and Drug Abuse Board for 16 years, from 2002 to 2018. So he served on and part of that, a long part of that was he was chairman of that board for years. So I just want to acknowledge that. But the proclamation actually said, whereas Dr. John L. Coxon was a lifetime member of the Samuel J. Bush Post 207, the American League Department of South Carolina, where he was a post commander for 1 year, an adjutant for 58 years, and a district commander for 26 years. And whereas as district commander, Dr. Coxon organized 5 posts, he was Zone 5 commander for 2 years and chairman of the Credential Committee for 6. For 2 years, he served as chairman of the Oratorical Committee. And whereas Dr. Coxon attended several national conventions as well as served American Legion Conference in Washington, D.C., and it was rare for Dr. Coxon to miss an American Legion post meeting or a State Department convention or conference. And whereas Dr. Coxon received a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics from Allen University, a Master from Southeastern Oklahoma University, and a PhD in Education Administration from Nova University. Dr. Coxon retired from the Beaufort County School District after 34 years, 8 years as an educator and 26 years as an administrator. And whereas Dr. Coxon was a 27-year member of the Shriners who affirm religious tolerance, patriotism, freedom, charity, and integrity. Dr. Coxon was a 26-year member of the Masons who was dedicated to fellowship, morals, discipline, charity, and obedience in the law. And whereas Dr. Coxon was a member of the Omega Psi Phi fraternity and was presented with a service award for 35 years of devotion and service and exemplifying the 4 cardinal principles: manhood, scholarship, preservations, and uplift. Dr. Coxon was a member of the Grace AME Church since 1944, where he was a steward and leader for 40 years. And now therefore be resolved that Beaufort County Council extends its gratitude to Dr. John L. Coxon for his service and dedication to the community and country. And this is Dr. John L. Coxon, who was born on August the 2nd, 1932, and he died April 12th, 2024. And it was dated to today's date and signed by our chairman, Dr. Joseph Passman. Thank you, sir.
Next, we will have the Honorable Senator Tom Davis come forward to address County Council.
Mr. Chairman,
Good evening.
it's been a while since I've talked to you all, so I figured I'd come and update you on various things. No particular order, but met earlier today in regard to St. James Baptist Church and wanted to give you an update on that and where I see things moving based on this morning's conversation. Write down these numbers because I think writing the numbers down is important. The cost of building the new sanctuary out on Union Cemetery Road is going to be about $2.9 million. There is about $0.6 million or $600,000 worth of furniture, fixtures, pews, electronics, other things inside the sanctuary. About $1.5 million of site work, about $500,000 worth of architecture, engineering, archives, geotech, whatever. About $200,000 to move the historic Cherry Hill School to the new site. About $1.5 million for land value for the new site, and then about $1.5 million to build the fellowship hall. So that all adds up to $8.7 million. We have gotten in this year's budget $4 million, state budget, $4 million to assist with that. That's on top of $750,000 from last year. So that's $4.75 million toward that $8.7 million cost. I spoke with Senator Graham's office today, and there is going to be a federal earmark appropriation request submitted and considered by Graham's office by April 29. The request is going to be for $2 million. So let's be optimistic and assume it's $2 million. That then leaves a balance of $1.95 million if all the numbers that I have laid out there are accurate as a shortfall. There are two routes you can go with the St. James Baptist Church. You can undergo another 18 months to 2 years worth of environmental assessment out there that the FAA would like done or needs to have done. That's on top of the 5 years that's already been happening. And I think that EA process will probably take more than 2 years. And so in order to qualify for FFA reimbursement of some of your costs, you need to complete that EA process. What I have suggested, and the reason I've gotten state money is to go another route, is to just expeditiously do the project. Build the new sanctuary, move the school out there, build a fellowship hall, and instead of applying to the FAA for a reimbursement, which you would have to do after doing an EA, just get a direct federal appropriation earmark to cover the federal government's share of this, because I think it's a compelling story. I think it's equitable. But anyway, that's sort of what's up in the air right now about that. And ultimately, it'll be up to you and the town to decide whether you want to do additional studies and due diligence for a couple years to try to qualify the property for an FFA reimbursement, which is still problematic, or whether you just want to go ahead and break the eggs, make an omelet, and then apply for an earmark from the feds for the federal contribution. So that's all by way of background on St. James Baptist Church. I want to talk about some specific appropriations in this year's Senate Finance Committee version of the budget. It'll be supplemented to some extent, or to considerable extent, by the House when the budget goes back to it. But here is the money that's already in the budget that I think are of interest to y'all. An additional $2 million has been allocated for some due diligence on the Jasper County port site, as it's generally referred to. That's on top of $1.5 million that was spent last year. Now, the focus has shifted a little bit. In years past, the focus has been on building a new port facility on the Savannah River in Jasper County, down near the mouth of the Savannah River. That need for capacity is probably 20 to 25, 30 years in the future, given the capacity in Charleston and Savannah. So the focus has shifted to taking the tract of land we're interested in developing from near the mouth of the river, where the port would be, to all the way up to adjacent to 17. Right as you're about to go over the Talmadge Bridge, it would be adjacent to 17. The idea there being you could build a several million square foot cold storage facility that would immediately service Garden City Terminal in Savannah and Hutchinson Island, which Georgia desperately needs cold storage distribution facility. That would be an immediate thing we could do, as opposed to waiting 25, 30, 35 years for the port. It would also allow you to begin bringing infrastructure down to that site, water, sewer, power, road, things of that nature, so that when you did want to do the Jasper Port, that infrastructure would be in place. So I wanted to let you know that the focus has shifted somewhat to some more near-term economic activity, but with the idea that it lays the foundation for subsequent expansion when the port becomes viable, when I'm dead and gone. In addition to that $2 million, there was an $11.5 million appropriation to USCB for their Convocation Center. That is on top of previous year appropriations that we've received. I believe that USCB is getting closer to having the money it needs to build that Convocation Center. I think it may be somewhat still short, even with this $11.5 million, but it may be sufficiently far enough along to where Dr. Panu, they can start to move forward, but I'll let him brief you on that. But $11.5 million is in the budget for the Convocation Center. An additional $2 million this year for the TCL Workforce Center. Again, this is on top of previous year appropriations for that as well. I believe that TCL is now in a position to where it can move forward on its Workforce Center with those capital appropriations. Some smaller appropriations, there was $1 million in the Senate Finance version of the budget for the Gullah Geechee Historic Neighborhood Community Development Corporation, which, as you'll recall, is something the town set up a couple years ago, and it got initially $5 million in seed money from the state. That is essentially the group that speaks on behalf of the Northern Islanders, and it has been really good to have that person or that entity at the table to speak for the Northern Islanders in connection with bringing the bridge in for a landing, which I'm going to touch on in a moment. Another appropriation was $1 million for Mitchellville, on top of prior year's appropriations as well, to restore that particular historic site in the north end of the island. There will be additional appropriations for Beaufort County and Jasper County in the House version of the budget that they'll take up the next couple, 3 weeks. What I typically do with House members, and in particular Bill Herb Kurzman, who's on Ways and Means, is he will get a certain number of projects in the budget for our area. I'll get a certain different projects in the budget in the Senate version, and then we work to make sure that they all survive when the budget reconciliation process occurs between the House and the Senate version of the budget. So this is that sort of half of the story, as you might say, from the Senate side of the equation, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of where things stood there. I want to give you some brief updates in regard to where I see the 278 bridge project and what I think the status is and what I think the end game is on that. Just to kind of refresh your recollection, the project funding comes from three primary sources: $80 million from the penny sales tax that was passed a few years ago. Well, that was a portion of the penny sales tax. $80 million went for the bridge. We got a $120 million grant from the State Infrastructure Bank for that purpose. And then the DOT was going to pick up the balance. And that held true all the way through to when there was an updated cost of the project given about a year ago. It was $325 million, okay? At that point in time, the DOT was still willing to cover the delta. They were still willing to cover the increased cost. As you may know, in the last couple of weeks, the DOT went back through another round of updating the cost of their projects for not just Beaufort County, but for projects throughout the state that have received SIB funding or DOT funding. And it won't surprise you to learn that they're all much more expensive now than was initially contemplated. The Beaufort County Bridge Delta, the 278, is between $100 to $150 million short, okay? So with those revenue sources we talked about already, which were in place, that added up to the 325, the 80 million, the 120 million, the balance from the DOT, there still is going to have to be an additional, at a minimum, $100 million to build the bridge. Now, there are different ways you can go to skin that cat. We can go back to the SIB and try to get a supplemental SIB grant, because again, we're not alone in this. I mean, York County, Charleston County, every county's projects are over budget, so it's not like we're sticking out like a sore thumb, okay? So I think the state is in a position of developing what is its response going to be to that economic reality. Is it going to appropriate additional funds to the SIB for additional grants? Is it going to appropriate funds to the DOT and have the DOT cover that? Or is it going to lean substantially or partially on local governments to come up with a portion of that overage? I don't know the answer to that yet. But in any event, having a definite answer as to how that, at a minimum, $100 million delta is resolved, that is not need to be nailed down before the DOT submits to the Corps of Engineers as part of the NEPA process a request for a finding of no significant impact on the project. Okay, so it's not like all that money needs to be nailed down and specified and know where it is before they take that step. The only thing they need to have before they take that next step is the municipal consent from the town of Hilton Head. Now, as you know, the town of Hilton Head has engaged a consultant and has been in the process of, again, looking at the bridge, receiving citizen input. It's my understanding that the whole packet of information from the consultant is going to be delivered to the town of Hilton Head officials sometime in May. And in talking with the town of Hilton Head today, they intend to take up that issue at their meeting on June 6th. Now, there's been some discussion about SIB funding. I've spoken with the SIB chairman, John White, and, so long as we're making good faith progress and the end is in sight and we're going to know one way or the other fairly certain whether there's municipal consent, that $120 million is still safe, quote unquote. Okay, so that's within the parameters of time I'm talking about now. There's an additional parameter of time that I think that everybody needs to be aware of. The environmental assessment process is a process that lasts for 3 years. So once that environmental assessment process starts, there needs to be finality in regard to that environmental assessment within a 3-year window. I called up to the DOT today to check and see when that 3-year window expires, and I was advised by the new Secretary Powell that it's June 28, 2024 is when the 3-year anniversary of that NEPA process is, okay? So it is imperative, if we want to have this project remain on the course that it's on, and I'm not making a judgment in that regard, I'm stating that if we want it to keep on the course that it's on, that there would need to be some sort of determination by the town of Hilton Head at its June 6th meeting, so it could be submitted to the DOT, which they have said is a condition precedent to them submitting the project as part of the NEPA process for a FONSI, okay? So that's where that all sits. I mean, all the cards are on the table there, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have about that, but I wanted to give you some sort of an updated timeline in regard to some important dates. I wanted to give you a summary in regard to some of the components of funding and where potential shortfalls are. Well, there are going to be shortfalls, but a shortfall falls, and then different ways to go about addressing that shortfall so you can begin thinking about that along with the rest of us. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll stop and answer questions about that or any of the other items that I mentioned or anything else you'd like to talk about.
I
Questions?
just have one quick question.
Sure.
In 1975, an airplane almost crashed into that church. So it's 50 years now, we're trying to move the church from the end of the runway. 50 years.
Yeah.
Our fiscal year starts July 1st. The federal fiscal year starts October 1st. Did Senator Graham indicate that money would be available before his fiscal year expires, September 30th, or is he doing it in next year's fiscal?
It's my understanding it's this year's because there was a deadline of April 29.
Okay, great.
And, but I share your thoughts in that regard, Councilman McCollum. There are two different ways we can get money from the federal government as a result of this necessitated move. You can go through a full-blown environmental assessment process, which would, again, I think would take a minimum of another 2 years before you even start looking at design and construction, and get money from the FAA through a reimbursement process. It's like Medicaid. You pay the money up front, then you submit a reimbursement voucher, and you get paid a percentage of your money back. Or you can straight up go into the federal budget and ask for an appropriation, and not delay the design and construction process. Get that going now, because they have waited for so long, to me. And that's why I decided to ask for an appropriation in the state budget, knowing that, if we move forward now, before that EA process is done, that takes away the possibility of getting an FAA reimbursement back, but it doesn't take off the table the ability to get a direct federal appropriation, because it's a great story and it's an equitable thing to do.
Got it. Thank you.
Others?
Just
Mr. Reeves?
last, one thing I want to add
Yes, sir.
is two things. One, thank you very much for getting involved with both of these projects, St. James and the bridge. Since joining council, I've been on the committee for St. James, and you're making a lot of people happy by pushing that along, so thank you for that. You said something tonight that I think is been discussed quite a bit with a lot of people between town and county. That money, the $120 million, will be safe as long as we come up with the June 7th meeting and get that
June
consent.
6th.
Or June 6th, so that's good. So listen, Senator, thank you for everything you're doing for us. We appreciate it.
Well, and again, and thank you for that, Councilman. I mean, I view my role in this respect in two regards. One is to make sure the money stays in place, and second of all, to make sure that the community has enough time to assess and to make whatever recommendations and changes they want to the bridge. I'm agnostic in regard to what it ultimately looks like. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I'm not an engineer. My opinion is worthless in that regard anyway. But in regard to those two things, holding the money in place with the DOT and the SIB, and then advocating for any additional funds. And second of all, providing enough time through which the community feels like it becomes their project and not something put on them by the DOT. I feel like those two things have been accomplished, and I compliment both the county and the town for providing that space, because I do think it's going to be a much better product as a result, and something that we take ownership of, and not something that's been put upon us.
Great. Any other
Thank you. That's
questions?
Just want to make one comment.
Yes, sir.
Senator, thank you for
Yes, sir.
all you've done and all the support you're giving this community. And I just want to make a just comment to you.
Yes, sir.
That you at one time represented this side of the Broad River. Just keep us in mind.
Yeah, I've recently built off Alljoy Road in Bluffton, but I've lived in Beaufort for 39 years, and it wouldn't matter where I live, Councilman, I would still consider Beaufort to be, and I work very closely with USCB and TCL and on many projects here in the northern part of the county, but I always will feel that way. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I appreciate the opportunity to share with you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll keep you posted. I will let you know that your planner, Jared Fralix, is doing an excellent job of monitoring this, hitting the mark on important dates, making sure nothing slips up. I think everybody's dealing with the cards face up here so that we all know what's going on. And I'm confident, Mr. Chairman, that we get this thing into a place where everybody's satisfied very shortly.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
We've written down all the numbers, so thank you
Okay.
very much for the hard work you do.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Okay. Okay, we are at our first citizens' comment section, and we have one person who would like to discuss item number 13, Krista Flanders. Good evening, Krista.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. I wrote this down because I know I only have 3 minutes.
Yes.
And this is in regards to the opioid settlement funds acceptance. My name's Krista. I'm from Hilton Head Island. I will celebrate 9 years of sobriety in August. I actually got sober in Beaufort County Detention Center. At the time, there was no local options for treatment. I stayed in the county for 30 days, sold everything I owned to bond out, and head 3 hours away for long-term treatment. Since then, I came back and I have been recovering out loud and helping others in their journey to recovery. In those last 8 years, the opioid crisis has evolved so much, it's wiping out our communities. Every 4 minutes, we lose someone to an overdose. Last year, we lost 112,000 people in this country. So far this year, Jasper County has had 27 overdoses, and I know that's not our county, but a lot of that trickles into our county. When someone's ready to change their life and get recovery, where do they go? Google doesn't help much. Every day, someone is asking me for help on where to go. Just in the last 6 months, my resources have grown, but we still do not have a detox, and a hospital will not detox you. The only option for someone with no insurance or money is the Charleston Center, and you pray there's a bed open. And treatment options are very limited here in Beaufort County. I truly believe our community will benefit greatly if we had affordable treatment facility and detox. Everything from the crime to the employment rate. I'm proof there is a solution, and you can be an active member to society and fix your wrongs. See, in order to stay sober, we must be honest all the time. I'm here speaking up so others don't have to suffer in silence. Out of the dozen arrests, only that last time did a public defender offer me treatment, and that would even be an option. All he did was plant a seed. So we need to plant more seeds and have a place to plant it. Again, I truly believe our county would benefit from more recovery. I thank you for letting me speak.
For you. Very nice. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on any agenda item before we move on? Seeing none? Okay. Liaison and committee reports. Are there any reports for
I
any?
actually have two.
Yes.
Keep Beaufort County beautiful. We had Glenn Payne come up from Clemson. He's part of Beaufort County. And spoke about wildflowers. They also hired, litter enforcement hired 2 new employees, which that's good news. And they also talked about putting recycle cans, plastic/glass out here next to our trash can, because there's no recycle. Plus, all the trash goes in 110. Doesn't go like glass, like we did if you were at the Heritage, you saw many containers for glass, plastic, whatever. Also, the Stormwater Committee, Alice is the liaison, but I went to that meeting, and the people, residents from All Joy spoke. They would like a public meeting. Mark, are you online? Mark Lawson? No? Okay.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, he is, okay. They would like a public meeting if possible, and they spoke very highly of Councilwoman Howard, and she did a great job in her district for stormwater. But I talked to Mark Feinberg yesterday, and he said to me, it took you, what, 4 years to accomplish that, so it's not like it's gonna be done overnight, so.
And a lot of support from our staff. I mean, nothing happens without them, that's
Yeah,
for sure.
right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Any others?
I do not have one this time.
Wow, I'm
There's no meeting.
stunned.
Yes, I know.
I
Wow.
have a short one.
Ms. Howard,
The Beaufort Memorial Hospital Finance meeting was this morning. They still have an increase in deliveries. I don't know what's going on in Beaufort County, but there's more babies being born, which is good news. And their board meeting is Wednesday morning. They did a primer on Medicare, Medicaid, and the finance director will probably send that to me, and I'll share it with all of you. It's very good, very interesting at a
Excellent.
national level, what's going on.
Mr. Chairman, just one thing. Committees are good for now. Thursday, I'll be at another one for the airport, but I've been talking to Dr. Rodriguez about a program, and it has to do with shadowing town council or county council for local youth, high schools. And what brought this up was, I went to a ribbon cutting at the middle school not long ago, and I asked these kids, I said, have you ever thought about, kids that live here, that grew up here, have you ever thought about town or county council, or even a school board? And one of the kids said to me, don't you have to be old for that? So
There it is.
I sort of, Logan, you're an exception now, just don't get so upset. But Dr. Rodriguez and I have been together a few times now, and we're putting together a program that is gonna somewhat like shadow what we do. And I'm gonna talk to town council as well, so stay tuned for that. If you have any ideas or thoughts on that, let me know, but I think if we engage with our local youth, we may get more help and more protection for what we want to protect and preserve. I mean, there's a lot of us that come from different parts of the country, which is great. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, but, reaching out to our local youth, I think, is a great way to start and get a program going. So we'll keep you posted.
thank you. Any others?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
because he talked about youth, let me make a comment
Yes, sir.
and piggyback on what he has said. I had a town meeting, public meeting from the Recreation Department. Mr. Brown made a great presentation at the time, and someone brought to my attention that there was really no youth there. And so I want to just piggyback on him. The next time Mr. Brown has made it available to the community that he would have a workshop on recreation, and I'm going to try to do all I can to get young kids, when I say young kids, I'm talking about 18 and under,
Absolutely, yeah.
there, to get their input and stuff in that.
This is what
So
you're
I'm
talking
going
about?
to piggyback on what you just said. Thank you,
This is
Mr.
what you're
Chairman.
talking
No,
about?
no problem.
This is what you're talking about?
And as you heard earlier with Mr. Robinson's report, we have been going around the county to make a presentation about the facts regarding our upcoming referendum in November. We've listened, we've understood some of the concerns our citizens have. We're going to have one more meeting in St. Helena's on the 29th. We're then probably going to bring back our Sales Tax Advisory Committee to alert them about what we've learned so far, so that we may be able to go back out before we have the third and final reading to let people know, okay, this is what you said, these are the changes we're going to make, but that remains to be seen until we have the next one and possibly be in Mr. Dawson's region. So stay tuned for that. You will be able to follow all of the information on the county website as to what we've been doing. Okay, we're now ready for the action items. I would ask a member to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Cunningham makes the motion.
A second.
Mr. Glover makes the second, duly motioned and seconded for the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, the consent agenda will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. When we altered the agenda for tonight, we put on for a presentation and public hearing of the 2024 Community Development Block Grant, known as the CBDG, and Michelle Knight of the Low Country Council of Governments will be presenting that. So can I have the motion and second for that to allow her to come to do the presentation?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Howard made the motion, and Mr. Bartholomew made the second. So it's been duly motioned and seconded. Michelle, would you come forward, please? Thank you very much.
Good evening. I think y'all have my, oh, there we go. Okay. As you know, it's that time of year again. We're a little late. This year we had some things going on in our office that slowed us down a little bit. But we are here to do our annual needs assessment public hearing for 2024 to get the county set up with their priorities for the next 12 months to potentially pursue community development block grant funding through this program. So as we always start off with, and I noticed on your agenda, you've got your fair housing resolution later on. The commercial break for the county is just to remind everyone here that the county does not discriminate against fair housing, against the protected classes of race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, or national origin in either the sale and rental of housing and residential real estate transactions or in the provision of brokerage services. If someone contacts you or your staff and states that they believe that they have been discriminated against, you can have them call our office at that main line number, 473-3990. We will take the complaint and pass it along if it needs to be passed along based on the information we collect. The CDBG program has been in existence now for 40 years, well, actually probably closer to 50 years. But its purpose mainly is to provide resources for communities to improve the quality of life of predominantly low to moderate income people. For 2024, we expect that our allocation will be roughly $19.8 million. That has not been finalized yet, but that's what we expect it to be. And we're going to go through that because our comment period is past. Our main program categories are community development, business development, and regional planning. And then there are subcategories by which we can apply for funding. And this is pretty much the meat of our presentation here. So we have basically two funding rounds. We have a spring round and a fall round. Our spring round actually closed today. It was the community infrastructure round, and this is typically what our water, sewer, drainage, road set aside is. We can apply for up to $1 million to address water issues, sewer issues, drainage issues, and road issues. The minimum that we can apply for is $50,000, and the priorities here typically are upgrades to existing infrastructure that improve an LMI community, and then after that, extension of new service in dense areas, and then finally, extension of new service into less dense areas. So those are typically your priorities there. Community enrichment is our fall funding round. We have a mid-August request deadline and a mid-September application deadline. In this set aside, we have $7.1 million to do things like demolition projects of obsolete buildings, downtown streetscape improvements where there's been significant local investment, planning for regional infrastructure for areas that are predominantly low to moderate income, libraries, publicly owned facilities that you need to make improvements to that serve a predominantly low to moderate income clientele. This could be your senior centers, it could be your DSS centers, things of that nature. Transportation-oriented public facilities, health clinic facilities and equipment, fire substations of low to moderate income areas or fire trucks, and new sidewalks in LMI areas. Your maximum funding amount here is $750,000. Your minimum funding amount is $50,000. Your local priorities program, this used to be the special projects program, which I think y'all have a sidewalk project funded under currently or have had one. The maximum you can apply for here is $300,000. The minimum is $50,000, and basically, this is for smaller projects to address economic development, narrowing the digital divide, which has not been, we haven't put anything in to do this yet, but, so that hasn't been clearly explained to us what the state's looking for there. And then smaller projects that address public health and safety issues. And then our final set aside that we're going to talk about is Ready to Go. This is our non-competitive program under community development. There's $500,000 that's allocated here. This is for a project that would fit under community enrichment or community infrastructure, and is ready to go but for having money in hand, meaning you've done your environmental review, you have all your easements in place. It can't wait till the next funding round, so we want to pursue it now. Although it's non-competitive, it still has to score, so you have to make sure that you are meeting the requirements of the program. I talked about the fact that this program is to benefit low to moderate income people. There are basically 3 national objectives you can use. Over 95% of the money that's allocated in South Carolina is used to benefit low to moderate income people. You can do a project that would aid in the prevention of slum or blight. We've had a few of those over the years. They're primarily streetscape or demolition type projects. And then the final national objective you can use at times is to meet an urgent health threat or urgent community need. This is typically when you have a natural disaster and there's something that needs to be addressed. Oops, let's go back. So, have I passed it? Hang on. I may have passed it, but in Beaufort County, to be low to moderate income, basically your annual income for a family of 4 has to be less than $73,450 a year. That number will go up or down based on the number of people that are living in your house. But that's what the numbers are for this year. The other set-asides that we're going to talk about briefly, the business development program. This is a non-competitive program. You apply for this money when you have a project, but the purpose behind it is to provide public infrastructure to industries that are locating or expanding in your area that are providing a significant investment to the community, and they are creating jobs, of which at least half of those jobs or over half of those jobs can be done by a low to moderate income individual, meaning that you can do the job with a high school education and a year's experience. So that's what this program is designed to do. And typically, when I say public infrastructure, what we're looking at there are water, sewer, and road projects. The regional planning program, there's $500,000 set aside in it. That is to help the 10 cogs in the state, of which Low Country is one, to go out and do these public hearings, to have meetings with your staff, host project development days so that we can brainstorm with your staff to help you develop strong projects for the program. And then the last little bit of money in the allocation is set aside for state technical assistance and administration. We still have the requirement that if you are competing for a project and you are located in an opportunity zone, you receive additional score points for that. And we still have performance thresholds. A unit of local government can currently have up to 3 open grants before they're prevented from applying for other money through this program. Those grants cannot exceed over a 30-month grant period, and I think right now y'all still technically meet threshold. And then you can't have more than one neighborhood revitalization project. I don't think the county has any of those. You can't have more than one ready-to-go project. The county has none of those currently. And you can't have more than one project in the same neighborhood going on at the same time unless you're at least under construction with your current project. So, having said that, the county, I think right now until November, y'all can meet threshold, but after November, until you get your sidewalk project with Stewart Point Road closed, you will be out of contention for pursuing funds. I'd also like to talk briefly to y'all about the Low Country Regional Housing Consortium. As y'all know, April is action plan month for the consortium. We have drafted an action plan that will be actually due to be submitted the middle of May. I think the comment period is up for it on May 4th. We have a public hearing for that this Thursday night at our COG board meeting. But our objectives with the consortium are to rehabilitate substandard housing, to increase accessibility to adequate and affordable housing, and to support the development of safe and availability of safe, decent, and affordable housing. Our activities primarily have been new construction and single-family housing rehab. If there are other things that you would like to see us look at addressing, it's certainly the time for you to present comments to the COG about that. Currently, this year, we're looking to do what we've done in years past. We're not looking to make significant changes this year just due to some staff changes that were not expected. But having said that, we are open to other ideas as well. And then I think that's pretty much it. I'll be glad to answer any questions about anything that I've said. The main thing with CDBG that changed this year is that they have decided to, one, stop funding the neighborhood projects for the time being. And then two, they have added in a planning grant component to the fall round for communities that are looking to develop plans for infrastructure type projects in the future in lower income areas. So those are the big takeaways that are different this year. For
Okay,
those of y'all
before
that
I
hear
go to
this.
council members, since this is a public hearing, is there any member of the audience who would like to comment about this particular item?
Are there any family focused?
Please come forward.
My name is Joyce Ham. I was just wondering, are there any family-focused grants? She mentioned something about during periods of times when there are like natural disasters. What do you have that's family-focused so that the people in the community will have access to assistance?
When we do projects under that urgent need category after there's been a federally declared disaster, it's basically to address large-scale large-scale infrastructure issues. The most predominant federal group that helps individuals and families, as y'all probably are aware of, is FEMA and the things that they do. And then I think there are some state emergency medical division or emergency division monies that are allocated or leveraged with FEMA money to help to families when they have situations as a result of like a hurricane or a flood or something like that. So, but this money is geared toward doing things like the one thing that we've done under that category one time is we had, after tornadoes had gone through Colleton County, a building that was deemed downtown unsafe, and we used the grant funding to be able to clear that lot and keep it from being an attractive nuisance or a danger to people, you know, using the sidewalk because it was right up against the road and the sidewalk. But that's basically what we do with that money.
Okay. Is there anyone else from the public? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Are there any comments from council members?
I think.
Seeing,
Yeah.
Mr. Glover?
Yeah, Ms. Knight, just quickly, FEMA sort of relaxed their policy to allow for funding to be appropriate for heirs property. Has that happened with your program as it relates to?
You mean with the consortium,
Yes,
with the
ma'am.
housing program? I mean, we have done some homes where there are multiple owners to the property, where there's been consent of the owners, but typically, if we can't identify them all, we ask that the person living in the house try to get that addressed, you know, through other resources before they come to us, because it can be a problem.
Sure.
Let's just
Okay.
put it that way. And I will say this, we are, with two other COGs, having some conversations now about trying to set up a pilot program, hopefully with some state funding where we can do some things that we're really limited with the federal program. You know, use the same framework in terms of determining some of the eligibility, but like, for example, right now, I know you're aware of this, we can't touch a mobile home. And the fact of the matter is, in our region, a lot of people, a house for them is a mobile home. That's just what it is. And I mean, there's a reason that we don't do it, but we're looking at seeing if there's some ways that maybe we can open a door, a crack at least, to try to work on some of that, because it's a need. We turn people away all the time because of that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Dawson?
If I might, Michelle, thank you for this presentation. One question, what did you say the fall deadline is for submittal of projects?
It's August 16th for your request and September 16th for the full application. And I believe that typically what happens with this council is that y'all have a community services committee that'll rank priorities and then bring it back to your full council at your next meeting, probably, to make a recommendation as to what y'all should be pursuing, your top 3 for the year.
Okay. Any other questions? Michelle, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 12 is the first reading of an ordinance amending the Beaufort County 2040 Comprehensive Plan to add the Beaufort County Long-Term Resilience Strategy as an appendix. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Howard made the motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Glover made the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion needed about this? This was presented at one of our committees. Seeing none, the first reading will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Next is the first reading of an ordinance to accept and to appropriate funds from the South Carolina Opioid Settlement Funds. May I have
So
the,
moved.
okay. I didn't get who made the motion.
Either one, but second, first, it doesn't matter.
Okay, Mr. McKellen, I know you've been involved in that. You will be the motioner. Mr. Reeds, you will be the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is Audra, oh, she's not here? Oh, okay, Becca's here. So I just had a couple of comments. You have some great stuff in here. This is a rerun of the last year. I found it interesting that the coroner is listed as a first responder in need of Narcan to prevent other fatalities. That one kind of went over me. But it was interesting. And also the fact that we've had 31.47% more fentanyl-related deaths from 20 to 21. All of that should give us pause, and so I think this is a great use of these funds. The handoff program, all of that is very interesting. And I appreciate that you guys took care of applying for this and taking care of using it.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other comments? Seeing none, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. And I commend Krista for coming forward as she did. That took a lot of guts. You are to be commended for that. Next is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 99, Stormwater Management, Article 2, Stormwater Management Utilities, Sections 110, Stormwater Service Fee Billing, Delinquencies and Collections, and 113, Enforcement and Penalties of Beaufort County Code of Ordinance. May I have such a motion?
So move, sir.
Mr. McKellen and Mr. Cunningham. Duly motioned and seconded. Before I go to council, is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on this particular item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Is there any comments from
Yes.
council? Yes, ma'am.
I feel we need to address Maria Wall's email dated April 9th, 2024. If the ordinance was vague enough that the county shouldn't be penalized when they were late, then our taxpayers shouldn't be penalized either. We should not approve an ordinance that gives the county special treatment and make a motion to remove the paragraph on how the county pays its bills.
You're making a motion?
Paragraph on how the county pays its bills.
Okay.
Where is that paragraph?
Is there a second?
I'll second that for her
Oh,
to listen to
okay.
that, sure.
Okay. Duly motioned and seconded by Ms. Brown and Mr. Reitz about removing a paragraph on how the county pays its bills.
Could I ask what that particular paragraph is without reading 50 pages more?
Ms.
Can you
Brown,
tell me?
which paragraph are you talking about?
What page?
There was a long, well, Brian can tell
I think
us.
it's page 90, subpart B.
Page 90 in our book?
Yes, I believe that's.
Good evening.
Page 90? Okay.
Brian Hobart, Staff Attorney for the county. I think she's referring to 99-110, paragraph B, method of payment by county for county-owned property. And what that is it says the county shall pay the annual stormwater fees owed for the county-owned properties by way of a journal entry prepared by the finance office, charging the general fund's budgeted stormwater fees line items and crediting the stormwater fund's revenue line item for the total stormwater fees for the county-owned property. That just makes it administrative movement from one account to the next to make sure the account is paid. It makes it easier for the finance department.
And that's what you want removed,
Yes,
okay?
Is there replacement language
yeah.
for another method of payment?
It would go revert to what it was, and that is that they would have to prepare the annual bills, send them to the finance office. They'd have to get the bills, then make payment of those checks just like anybody else is what it would be. We're trying to take away that administrative burden on preparing those bills for the county-owned properties. They would just have a list of the properties and the amounts owed. The auditor prepares that. And then the finance office would pay the amount that the auditors determined that the county owes by moving it from the one account to the stormwater fee account.
I have a question, Mr. Harbert. What's practices in other counties? what's the common practice?
Let me refer to the finance officer to answer that.
I do know that the Department of Revenue knows of no other county who bills themselves. And of the other 2 counties I worked for, we never billed ourselves and paid ourselves.
My question is, why do you want it removed?
Because the stormwater fees, I understand everybody pays them. Am I right?
Everybody except for
Everybody
the,
pays them, I'm sorry.
except for the federal government for the military bases are not currently paying
Okay,
them.
I'm getting.
That was discussed at the committee meeting.
Okay, so the stormwater fees have to be paid by everybody. The county also has to pay stormwater fees. It's my understanding, we were late in paying the fees, correct?
That's my understanding as
All
well,
right.
yes, ma'am.
So if it's good for, it seems like it's good for thee, but not for me. So to me, as a taxpayer, if I were late paying stormwater fees, I'd have to pay the penalty.
Well, but again, it's a
This language
question.
doesn't
That's
remove
not
that.
this paragraph.
All that would do is set us up, saying if I got a bill from the county, that I wrote myself another bill, so I could
Okay,
pay it on a
then
different
maybe I'm
account.
misunderstanding
But-
here, but.
Let me clear something up,
Okay,
though.
okay.
You say that it's your understanding that we were late paying the fees. It's a determination as to were we late enough to where a penalty was incurred or not? And there wasn't a penalty language in the previous ordinance draft. I cleared that up and put that in there, and everybody's subject to that penalty if they don't pay it. There's a question as far as when it was due and then when it was delinquent. Delinquent would have been mid-March, March 17th, I think. It was paid before March 17th, is my understanding. So it wouldn't have been delinquent to where a penalty would have been owed if there was a penalty in place.
Well, Mr. Chairman, to me, it's best, if all the other counties are doing it this way, and I don't mean that we have to do it like they do, but it seems best practice to do the transfer rather than bill ourselves. I
I think what Ms. Christmas said was the other counties do not bill themselves for the
Exactly.
stormwater fees.
Yeah.
But the policy was made that because we expect the other municipalities and other districts to pay the fees, we would pay as well to where we didn't separate ourselves out.
Right.
So we've agreed to pay those fees, is my understanding.
But it'd be a transfer.
With a transfer.
With a transfer rather than.
Yes, you're paying it, it's just a matter of whether you get a bill and then write a check for it,
Right.
or do you get a bill or a list of what you owe and just move it from this account to the other.
It's like I transfer money to my husband's savings account.
Exactly.
Instead of writing him a check.
What it's doing is it's not going to the treasurer's office and then she's got to send it over to the county. It's taking away hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars of administrative
Labor.
fees for moving the money around.
It's Christmas, can I ask you a question? Is it faster to do it this way on a day-to-day basis?
Absolutely.
So if
It's
we were worried
faster.
about
We-
being late before, this would speed up the process for us.
That's right. We did not receive the bills until January.
Then I will not support removing this language, Mr. Chairman.
I will not either. I think the journal entry is the way to go. Any good business would do it that way. For the county to receive a bill and then have to write a check, it's redundant and it's a waste of people's time.
It's labor,
I would leave the paragraph in.
yeah.
And might I add one more thing? It's hundreds of bills. So take hundreds multiplied by the postage rate that we're mailing bills to ourselves.
It's every
And
parcel-
printing and administrative time and effort.
Yeah, it's every parcel of land the county owes that you're talking about. So you're talking about, she gets a stack of bills like this.
Hundreds, yeah.
Labor
Okay.
intensive.
Any further discussion?
There you go, Joey. You go.
Okay. Would you call the roll on this one, please?
So we're voting on the amendment?
Yes.
Councilmember
Everybody
Brown?
understands what we're voting on.
What's the amendment?
The amendment is to remove this language.
Remove the paragraph.
Okay.
Councilmember Brown?
Yes, to remove it.
Councilmember Reeds?
No,
Councilmember Lawson?
Tell him he's muted.
Mark, you're muted. Can you unmute yourself, please? No, no?
There you are.
He's not muted.
Okay.
Mic's not working.
Shake your head.
Right, okay. For those of you who didn't hear that, it was no. Okay. Go
Councilmember
ahead.
Cunningham?
No.
Councilmember Tavernick?
No.
Councilmember Howard?
No,
Councilmember Glover?
No.
Councilmember Bartholomew,
No.
Councilmember Dawson,
No.
Vice Chair McKellen,
No,
Chairman Passman.
No.
The motion fails.
Okay, we're back to the original motion, and I can't remember because I forgot. Is there any member of the public wishes to comment about what we just did? Thank you.
She shakes her head.
Seeing none, we'll close the public comment. Any further comments? All right, we're at the motion. The motion will be, well, since we had yes for that, I assume we're going to have to call the roll.
Yeah, if I could make a statement first, Mr. Chairman. I would hope that if we are late and we did not abide by the rules, that we do play by the same rules as citizens. Now, which you described at the podium, so I'm not saying we didn't, but I'm just saying, if that was the case, I would hope that we would pay the fee that we're supposed to, because that does come back on us.
That's written into the ordinance. Every public penalty is clear what dates they are and what.
Thank you.
Okay, please call the roll.
Vice Chair McKellen,
yes.
Councilmember Cunningham,
Yes.
Councilmember Reeds,
Yes.
Councilmember Lawson,
Yeah, he said yes.
There you go.
Councilmember Brown,
Yes. That's funny.
Councilmember Tabernick,
Yes.
Councilmember Howard,
Yes.
Councilmember Glover,
Yes.
Councilmember Bartholomew,
Yes.
Councilmember Dawson,
Yes.
Chairman Passman.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Item number 15 is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance amending ordinance 2023/32, an ordinance to amend the Beaufort County ordinances establishing a road use fee.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
I'll second.
Bartholomew and Mr. Cunningham made the motion in second. Is there any member of the public who wishes to make a comment about this particular item? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment period. And is there any member of council who wishes to address this issue? Seeing none, this will be approved without objection for the second reading, and I see no objections. Item number 16 is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance to amend Chapter 2 Administration, Article 7 Finance, Division 2 Fees and Service Charges Generally, Section 2-437 Road Use Fee of the Beaufort County Code of Ordinances.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bartholomew made the motion.
I'll second it.
Ms. Tabernick made the second, duly motioned and seconded. Is there a member of the public wish to address this particular item? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Is there a member of council who wishes to weigh in on this? Seeing none, the second reading will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item 17 is a public hearing and second reading of an ordinance authorizing the interim county administrator to execute any and all necessary documents for the accepting of properties pursuant to a development agreement between Beaufort County and Cherokee Beaufort LLC. A motion.
So moved, sir.
A second.
Okay, Mr. Cunningham made the second. Mr. McKellen, you made the first.
I did.
Okay. Duly motioned in second. Any member of the public wish to weigh in on this particular item? Seeing none, we'll close the public portion. Any member of council wish to weigh in on this one? Seeing none, the second reading will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item 18 is approval of a resolution to name the Port Royal Library facility in honor of the former Town of Port Royal Mayor, Samuel E. Murray.
I'd like to make the motion.
Ms. Howard made the motion, and 100 people made the second.
All right.
I will give it to Ms. Brown. Duly motioned and seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, is there any comments from,
I don't
Council?
know if Councilman Dawson would like to make a comment. I think he had him as a principal at one time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to that point, Mayor Murray, before he became the mayor of Port Royal, he was the principal at Dale Elementary School, which is now Davis Elementary. But he was the principal for many years there before he actually moved to Port Royal and then became the mayor of Port Royal after retiring from the school system. But he's worthy of this library being named after him for the services that he provided, not only in the educational system while he was a principal at Davis, but also to the town of Port Royal and the citizens that he actually had under his purview at the time. So.
Excellent. Any other comments? Seeing none, this resolution will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Excellent. Item 19 is the approval of a resolution recognizing Fair Housing Month. May I have such a motion, please?
So moved, sir.
I'll second.
Oh, I saw Mr. McKellen and I heard Ms. Tabernick. Duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Item 20 is approval of a resolution authorizing the interim county administrator to execute the necessary documents and provide funding for the fee simple purchase of real property identified as tax map serial numbers and also known as Boundary Street, Logan. That's the best way to do it. May I have such a motion, please?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Mr. Glover made the motion, Ms. Howard made the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? See?
I'll just say that, for me, the city of Beaufort has been actually looking at Vista along the interstate, the highway there on 21 in what we call the Burton community. And just people have commented on how beautiful it is. And this is to enhance that even more. So it gives the public a chance to see the beautiful scenery. I support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, this will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. We are now at the citizen comment period, the second one, and I do have 5 people that will take up, oh boy. All right, let's see. We do have an executive session that we need to go to. All right. Mr. Yarborough, you were first. Would you please come forward and address us?
Hi, I'm Cade Yarborough, Chair of the DeFusky Island Council. Last week, I emailed you a letter expressing our council's strong concerns about the number of ferry issues. The DeFusky Island Council is your advisory group, but the perception on our island is that no one cares and no one is listening. I'm here tonight to tell you that the people on our island are hurting and our businesses are struggling to survive. I'm asking a few of our requests be brought up at tonight's executive session meeting. Issue number 1, we need a safe boat and we need a safe dock. The Manatee should be replaced with 2 ferry boats, which is called for in the ferry contract. And the docks are in disrepair and not safe. People have been already hurt, and one man almost lost his life when he ended up in the water. Disability Rights South Carolina says that the county cannot contract its responsibilities away on this matter. This is an emergency situation. Our request, since our operator won't provide safe boats and safe docks, it's time for the county to step up and ensure we have both. Issue number 2, Mr. Turner was successful in getting a contract language that allows him to restrict the dock access to other commercial users. But Mr. Turner is now denying access to everyone, including locals who have fished at the docks for years and a handful of DeFusky people who use private boats. We were at a meeting with Mr. Robinson, Mr. Ward, and Hank, and they told us that we could use Buckingham Landing for day trips, but access to that dock is now blocked. Even worse, over the weekend, Mr. Turner put up chains and padlocks preventing access to both docks on Pinckney Island. Our request is the county should instruct the ferry operator to immediately cease efforts to block the access to Pinckney Island docks, and the county should also ensure the access to Buckingham Landing. Issue number 3, significant problems continue with the Palmetto Breeze Card. We have asked you to provide a 30-day extension for our application deadline so that these problems can be resolved, but we've had no response. Our request, we are running out of time, and tonight I'm urgently renewing our request for the 30-day extension for the Palmetto Breeze Pass application. Issue number 4, Mr. Turner is doubling down on unreasonable cargo policies and fees on the local people. I doubt if any of you would publicly support tax increases, but that's exactly what's happened to DeFusky's working class since this underfunded contract went into effect. It's cruel and short-sighted. Our request, work with us and with the ferry operator to eliminate these drastic increases. Issue number 5, the DeFusky Island Council's current communications process with the county is not working. Our request, as your advisory group, we are officially requesting a meeting in the next 2 weeks with your representatives of the county council and our representatives from the DeFusky Island Council so that we can come up with solutions to our major issues. Thank you.
Okay, Kate, I have a question. Item number 2, could you talk about the padlocks on Pinckney? Did you refer to that?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
So recently, we've had people come into the community dock side, so where the ferry's not coming in.
Right.
And it's being chained off and padlocked. But also after hours.
What does that mean?
It's chained off, like it's blocked off to the access of the public. And it should be open to people to fish and dock there.
I get that, I understand. That's Pinckney.
That's Pinckney Island.
Okay, thanks. I thought we were addressing that last week, but I'll check on that, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Carrie Major.
Thank you, Mr. Nico.
I'm telling you, this is stupid.
Good evening, and thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak. Carrie Major. I am from St. Helena Island, and I've been engaged with our local youth, and I heard someone say that, since 1985 through Carrie's Low Country Modeling and the Beaufort County Youth Conference, half of my life. I found a quote that says, "Together may we give our children roots to grow and wings to fly." And as I think about what our needs are on St. Helena, we need, again, a youth and community center for our youth, for our community to use. I was at the presentation with Mr. Brown talking about the master plan for St. Helena Island through PALS, and I pray that St. Helena Island is included in that master plan, and a community and youth center, a state-of-the-art center, centrally located with all the amenities that our youth need in order for them to be successful. My prayer for all of you is that you will all be cognizant, and this is something that the Lord gave me, of your constituents and what they need and want in their community. I pray that you will remember not only who I am, but that I'm an advocate for our youth on St. Helena Island. And I am an advocate for all the other youth also. But right now, our focus is St. Helena Island and our youth and their needs that need to be met to give our children, our youth, someplace to go, after-school tutorial programs, leisure and activities, place where we can have computers, we can have a place for adults to go. And of course, you may say we have libraries, we have the school, but what time are they available to all of these youth on St. Helena Island? So we're looking forward to us being included in that master plan. Also, I know that there's going to be some, according to Mr. Brown, there's going to be some temporary, and I call it interim centers that's going to be open, and that's okay to do that temporarily, but we're looking for long-term, and it may not be right now, and I understand it may take a few years, but I heard a couple of people talk about the monies that
30 seconds.
that they can use, that they're using for other projects, and I'm sure that Beaufort County can find some monies, and I know it's there for our youth on St. Helena Island, and we're looking forward to working with you as well as to get this project done, because I know it can be done. I'm appointed, and not appointed, self-appointed, because I could be home sitting down, enjoying my retirement, but I'm here, and I will be here, as I told you all before, because the Lord said so.
Mr. Firewall?
I'm Marky Farrell. I'm from St. Helena Island.
It's kind of hard to follow Miss Major, but she said everything that I really had to say to you guys. But since I'm up here anyway, first thing I want to say is this is a great day to be a Beaufort County resident. And I understand the gravity of the decisions that you guys make. I know a lot of times when you speak to me, I'm up here and I'm raising Cain and everything, but that's part of the democratic process, and I appreciate you guys understanding that. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are standing strong with the decisions that you've made in the past. That's a good thing. The second thing that I would like to talk to you guys about is exactly what Ms. Major spoke to you on, and that's supporting our rural communities. You know, again, St. Helena is a very rural place, and it's hard to get to other places. So when you talk about a master plan and everything revolves around city centers or urban centers, the rural kids have a hard time getting there. When you talk about accessibility and access, they're two different things. Because you can it can be accessible to you, but if you can't get there, guess what? You don't have access to it. All we're asking is that we do the same thing for the St. Helena community that you would do for Bluffton, that you would do for the city of Beaufort, that you would do for the city of, the town of Hilton Head. We just want to be included in that. Mr. Dawson, you're absolutely right. Every single decision should be made based on all of Beaufort County. There is no southern Beaufort County and northern Beaufort County. We have to get away from that mess. We have to get away from that mess. We are one county, and guess what? Southern Beaufort County would not thrive without the workers from northern Beaufort County. Northern Beaufort County would not be able to support their families without the businesses and the tourist attractions of southern Beaufort County. So we have to work together. Plain and simple, stop the foolishness, listen to what your constituents want from all over the county, and base your decisions on that. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak.
Mr. Donahue.
Good evening, folks. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all y'all do. I guess I wanted to speak about Earth Day. The other day, driving to Savannah down 170, I witnessed probably about 6 county trucks and must have been 100 people on the sides, both sides and the median, picking up trash. And it gave me great joy to see that. I'm not sure if this is a new program or it's been happening for a while. I know that when I moved here almost 6 years ago, I actually was in touch with the director of the Litter Commission in Columbia because I was watching the contracted bush hogs just mowing over the garbage. Being Earth Day, I have firsthand seen what plastics do to our environment. It's heartbreaking. And so I don't know, I guess it also goes in line with St. Helena Island where, we need to avoid the pollution and the so forth. Anyway, for a state that has actual laws and signs posted everywhere about littering is against the law and there's going to be a fine or imprisonment, I was hoping to be able to see that law being in action, and I haven't. In Virginia, I actually got one of the counties, I sat down with the sheriff, and I got the county to take, to notify everybody doing community service that they could get their hours of community service picking up garbage. I also, up there, when I suggested it to the gal in Columbia, she said, we don't have that in our budget because I have seen certain counties and states where they take their prisoners, low-risk prisoners. You got to have a guard, but yeah, get them out picking up garbage too. You know, if we're gonna save this planet, we have to stop the garbage and the littering. And so, I don't know, just something for y'all to think about. And it's very important. If we're gonna save this planet, that's what we have to do.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Joyce Gibbs.
Thank you.
We'll share.
My name is Joyce Gibbs, and the reason why I'm here today is still in reference to the houses that they want to build over on Ramsey and Ben's Road. And the people in the community are saying that they don't want houses that's running $300,000 per home. Now, when we look at the income, if you want to consider income, Beaufort County actually cannot afford those kinds of houses. And I'm saying that because when I look at the salary that Beaufort County is paying the staff that's here at Beaufort County, the public defender is making, when he starts off, he's making a minimum of $57,000. They're saying that those homes, the bank is saying that you have to make a minimum of $77,000 to be able to get a loan to purchase those homes. This county is paying clerk courts $28,000. They're paying record clerks $28,000. This is where they're starting. And we also have to think in terms of families, the children who are getting married and having families. They're not starting off at $77,000. So we're asking you to please consider that when you're making decisions, that you're making decisions that supports our community. And if you think about our community, I've given you a sheet here, and it says the Freedmans of Port Royal. That represents me and my family. If you'll see on the last page, it'll have the first census of Beaufort, South Carolina, which is my grandmother, Sarah, who had 4 people in her household.
30 seconds.
And you'll also see on the 3rd page where it said that when you think in terms of binyas and kumyas, if you'll see on the page, it says, "It is worthy to note that the Negroes now within our lines are here not by invitation, but not by invitation by no one.
Please finish up.
But they were on the soil when we got here."
Thank you. Brenda Brown.
Can I finish my statement?
No, I'm looking for Brenda Brown.
She's yielding her time to me.
We don't yield time.
Oh. No
Brenda?
yielding, no time?
My name is Brenda Brown, and I give Joyce Seagham my minutes.
We don't allow that, I'm sorry.
Well, I support what she said.
Okay, thank you. Last one is William Brown. Thank you. Okay, we're going to close the public comment. We are now ready for an executive session. We have 3 items pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 30-4-70A2. The first one is receipt of legal advice, where the advice relates to pending claims that are covered by attorney-client privilege. It is Pine Island Holdings LLC versus Beaufort County. Item 2 is receipt of a legal advice, where the legal advice relates to matters covered by attorney-client privilege pending litigation, Paulson versus Beaufort County and James Beckert. And finally, discussions of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements and potential purchasing of property called Project Bravo. A motion, please?
So moved, sir.
I'll second.
Mr. McKellen, Mr. Cunningham, duly motioned and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we are in executive session. There may be matters arising out of executive session. We'll let you know if there are.
start that, but.
Beautiful age.
He's talking about funerals, and he's talking about knocking somebody around. This is good stuff.
Larry?
We're getting.
Okay, we're ready? Alice, you have the motion to read? Okay. We're back from executive session. There were 3 items discussed, and there is one matter arising out of executive session, and I'm going to ask Councilwoman Howard to make that motion.
Yes, sir, this is for number 24. I'd like to make a motion to approve first reading of an ordinance by title only, authorizing the interim county administrator to execute the necessary documents and fund the purchase of real property referred to as Project Bravo.
May I have a second? Mr. Bartholomew made the second. Duly motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, this item will be approved without objection, and I see no objections. Therefore, all business coming before County Council has been conducted, and we are adjourned.